Happy New Year, everybody. It's Friday, January 2nd, 2026. 2026. We are 35 days away from the Olympic Winter Games in Milan, Cortina, Italy. And the United States and USA Hockey have announced their men's, women's, and para-hockey teams. But of note on 100% hockey, it's the announcement of what the men's team looks like. And just to briefly go through it, the forwards are Matt Boldy, Kyle Connor, Jack Eichel, Jake Gensel, Jack Hughes, Clayton Keller, who's a new body on the team, Dylan Larkin, Austin Matthews, JT Miller, Brock Nelson, Tage Thompson, who's a new player on the team, the Tkachuk brothers, Brady and Matthew, and Vincent Trocheck. On defense, Faber, Hannafin, Quinn Hughes, Seth Jones, who's an ad, Charlie McAvoy, Jake Sanderson, Jacob Slavin, Zach Werenski. That is a dynamite blue line. I'm not sure who Mike Sullivan and his staff are going to tell you're going to sit in the press box, because that defense could be stellar. The goalies, no surprise, Connor Hellebuck, Jake Ottinger, Jeremy Swayman, the same three goaltenders that were part of the Four Nations face-off last February. Today on the show, Mike Zeisberger of NHL.com, Mike Harrington of the Buffalo News will break down exactly what went right, what went wrong with the American selections, and what Bill Guerin and his staff decided to do. And we'll talk a little bit about two of the biggest stories in hockey, one good, one bad. The Buffalo Sabres, 10 in a row on the positive side, and the Winnipeg Jets, down 8 on the negative side. Harrington, Zeisberger, and Shannon on 100% hockey.
NHL TV is now on DAZN. Hockey lives here.
Here we go.
Watch every game from every team. The best players in the world. And the coldest plays on ice. Watch up to 4 games at once for the ultimate NHL experience. Sign up now at DAZN.
The first show of 2026 for 100% hockey that's available on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, Amazon Music, and any of your favorite platforms, and two of my favorite mics with us to discuss the American Olympic team that was announced today on NBC. Mike Harrington of the Buffalo News and NHL.com's Mike Zeisberger. All right, you're the token American on this show today, Harrington. Your reaction to the 42 seconds of glory that we saw on the Today Show announcing the American team.
Yeah, I mean, you want to get me started in that whole method of presentation. You probably don't. But, I'm sitting here looking at my TV screen. Is Thompson there? Is Tuck there? You're trying to get the headshots as they swing by the screen. I mean, give me a break. That was ridiculous. But, all right, the team itself here. I got a very quick, instant, obvious reaction. Okay? We have to take care of the New York Rangers. That's my first reaction. Obviously, Chris Drury's in the management. We have to take care of the New York Rangers. They snubbed Adam Fox. Okay, so now they have to put JT Miller and Vincent Trocheck on the Olympic team instead of Jason Robertson, instead of Cole Caulfield, and instead of Alex Tuck. Are you kidding me? That's why the New York Rangers are where they are. Some of their top players haven't done jack you-know-what this season. So obviously I'm fired up already. The anti-New York Rangers sentiment is going to blow up across the hockey world in the wake of this announcement.
The happiest guy, Zeisberger, is John Cooper, who was accused of being nepotistic with his hockey team on Wednesday with 3 players from the Lightning on Canada's team, and we will quickly forget it when Mike Sullivan's team is full of Broadway blue shirts, right?
Well, first of all, the happiest guy is me, because I thought that Harrington would come on, my longtime friend, esteemed colleague, and thought he would be all rainbows and lollipops because the Sabres have won 10 straight, and nobody really wants to see that in terms of not about the Sabres. I'm very happy for my friends in Buffalo. But the fact that nobody wants to see rosy, happy Mike, and sure enough, he comes out fighting. That's what we expect from Harrington. Thank you very much. And yeah, you know what? I mean, I looked at this team, And, having talked to Billy Guerin on numerous occasions in the past couple months, and he kept talking about, well, it's not just about scoring. It's about checking. It's about having a team. And I thought, uh-oh, poor Cole Caulfield, poor Jason Robertson.
Yep.
This is very, very cryptic. And John, let's start on real quick on a couple of these roster things. You and I were at the Maple Leafs Jets game last night, and we discussed this. My number one pet peeve, and I have nothing personal against him, I know he's playing very well. When is the last time you went to an NHL game and you sat there and when a shift ended, you go, you know what? That Brock Nelson shift right there is something that I will always remember, okay? It stands out in my head. What is the love affair of Brock Nelson? And now, Trocheck, okay, JT Miller. I kind of get the JT Miller thing, but, to snub Jason Robertson and to snub Cole Caulfield, and I have no idea why USA Hockey or the management team, what they have against Cole Caulfield. Every time I click on my TV set, this guy is scoring a goal in the second, in the last 2 minutes of a game and overtime to tie games, to win games at dramatic points. I find it a little head scratching. And, I understand that these things are hard. I understand that there's always going to be second guessing. I understand that these people deal with these players all the time. But, are you telling me that Vincent Trocheck and Brock Nelson are two of the 25 best players that the U.S. can ice? I'm sorry, but I don't feel that way.
So, and two of the best 14 forwards? Are you kidding me? Two of the best 14 forwards. That jumps out at me even more. That's insane.
So what kind of hockey does this team play, Harrington?
Well, that's the problem. This isn't going to be like the Four Nations tournament. This is an IIHF tournament. This is not an NHL tournament, which is why you should have been picking guys like Robertson and Caulfield and Tuck, because JT Miller and Trocheck and why do we need a bunch of plugs? I don't understand. I'm not questioning anybody's integrity here. Let's get that straight right now. Same with Doug Armstrong with those lovely choices of Jordan Binnington and Colton Parayko over Team Canada, just for the record. So let's not, pound on Team USA without mentioning up what happened up north as well. You already mentioned the Tampa thing and the St. Louis thing. But there's a little too much in both of these teams of inside baseball here because, Billy Guerin's going to be the front man. Who's the assistant GM of Team USA? It's our friend Chris Drury. So that's one of my problems. But what kind of hockey is this team going to play is a valid question because you look at it and the choices are just a little weird. Even Canada, and I get it, he's become a player. But even picking Tom Wilson, you could discuss that in the nature of the background of the backdrop of this tournament.
But I view Tom Wilson like I view Tage Thompson in many ways.
A bit of a unicorn.
Yeah, they're a unicorn. Both of them can play fast. Both of them can shoot the puck.
Right.
I think that Wilson's a bit more of a wild card, but Tage Thompson, first of all, probably deserved to be on the Four Nations team, and certainly deserved to be on this team. Correct?
Yeah, and he really showed up in the World Championships. He made the Olympic team in the World Championships with his play, with the golden goal. So that's something that really, I think, resonated in the mind of USA Hockey because the Sabres haven't won anything and played any important games, and that damaged Tage Thompson for Four Nations. But you look at the construction of Team USA now, where you don't have the scoring of a Robertson. You don't have the scoring of a Caulfield. You don't have the all-around puck play, the defensive play, the penalty killing of an Alex Tuck. And again, the caveat of somebody can get hurt here. We already saw what happened with Bo Horvat the other night. There's still 5 weeks before they go to Italy. But I just think, here's the other point, John. You guys mentioned already, some of the little cryptic things that Guerin had said. How about whoever did it leaking to ESPN? Oh, here are the names of the guys who didn't make Four Nations who are going to be on Team USA. So they leak out Thompson, Keller, and Jones almost as a way to soften the blow because they know they're going to announce Trocheck and Nelson and Miller. That was very odd to me. How the entire team didn't leak out, but just the guys who weren't on Four Nations. It was really just strange stuff.
Well, to me, the answer to that question is simple. NBC is not an NHL partner.
Right.
We are sitting here on Friday morning, just after the announcement, where NBC has announced, very briefly, I might add, the team. And the NHL has an outdoor game in South Florida with ESPN and TNT, their rights holder, TNT doing the game today. And there would have been no mention of it because the Olympic teams, Canada and the United States Olympic teams, have overshadowed the outdoor game in Miami in many ways for the NHL. So you have to, I think that was the NHL looking after its rights holders. So you talked about the downside is, and I'm going to take a line out of Doug Armstrong. Let's talk not about necessarily about the guys who aren't on the team, but the guys who are. Seth Jones is on this team, Zeiss. He deserves to be on the team?
Oh, I think so. And you look at the rebirth of Seth Jones when he got to Florida. I mean, he was a key cog in them winning the cup. I like the way that he moves the puck. I think his physicality is underrated. And as much as, hockey poolies love Adam Fox because he puts up big numbers, he was not good at Four Nations. He's a liability in his own end. And I think that switch off was good. I love the fact that Clayton Keller is there. I think that he is one of those players that, when you look at it, I mean, we don't talk about Clayton Keller that much, whether it was...
Well, we don't see him enough.
Yeah, exactly. And we were talking last night. I had no idea how good Matt Boldy was as a hockey player until I got to see him at Four Nations, because we don't see Minnesota that much up here. And despite, they've got it, they're better now, okay? With the Quinn Hughes edition, there's more attention to them. But, they weren't that real kind of sexy team that you click on when you get home, like for the late games, and go, I wonder who the Wild are playing tonight. But he's a hell of a player. Boldy's a hell of a player. So those are the inclusions that those two specifically, Jones and Keller, are two that I agree with wholeheartedly. And Thompson, I think, was a slam dunk. And kudos to him last year, showing up at the final in a reserve role, and not sitting there and going, hey, I got snubbed from the original picks. I'm not here. You know what? He took one for the team, and now he's deservedly on the team.
See, in talking about this roster, and I always reference back to 2010 because I sat in that building as I think both of you guys did, and marveled at the American speed. The American speed in Vancouver was spectacular. Every time one of those guys came across the blue line, if you're a Canadian, you had to shudder because they were just that good. Keller,
other than because of Luongo?
I think that was part of it. I think that might have been part of it. But hey, Roberto Luongo made the save when he had to.
Actually, I correct myself for our buddy Strombone One out there on the social media. You know what? You're absolutely right. For all the criticism he took, he was there when it mattered, okay? And he won. Now, interestingly, and I'm going to morph into this, Mike brought up Jordan Binnington, and yeah, I understand why they took him. He hasn't played well. It'll be interesting to see how Kemper and, both those guys that they took are going to play and what the dynamic is going to be in goal. But Mike, has Swayman really played that well? Um, and I had an NHL general manager tell me a couple days ago, he goes, you know, for all the hype about Hellebuck and Ottinger, what have they won?
Right.
What have they won?
Hellebuck has won a lot of individual awards and didn't play well in the playoffs last year. And now you look at it, the Jets have collapsed without him. He's gotten deep in the playoffs one time, one Western final. Swayman, certainly the Bruins took a huge step back last year. He did as well with the whole contract situation. It just seemed like there has been zero discussion, frankly.
Yeah, it seemed like a slam dunk.
Of American goalies.
Guys, I'm going to throw it out to you. I think, and I've had somebody else tell me this, I think by the time we get to the Olympics, I think Jeremy Swayman's the starting goalie. I really do. Yeah.
I thought it would be Ottinger. Ottinger would be my pick.
Well, I think when you look at what, you're right about bodies of work, the ups and downs of the Boston Bruins this year. When you win 6, lose 6, win 6, and do it again. Yeah. And then I watched them the other night play against Connor McDavid, and without Jeremy Swayman in the first period, where he stoned McDavid 5 times. I swear, 5 times. I don't know where the Bruins would be. I think Jeremy Swayman might be the starting goalie by the time mid-February comes about Harrington.
Yeah, I could buy that. Certainly, Hellebuck's injury situation is going to be a huge question mark. And, Ottinger's been fine in Dallas. Casey DeSmith has been as good as he's been this year in Dallas, too. It's just the goaltending thing was goofy with both countries, with Canada and with the USA.
For different reasons, though.
For different reasons, right. I mean, why, and I love when these things go bad on these guys.
Yeah.
You announce Binnington, and what does he do? He gives up 4 goals in the first 4:39 in Colorado for the Blues. I mean, it was almost as a message from the hockey gods going, you guys should have gone another direction here, But say it is, and I apologize just for the record for being a little distracted here. This is as we tape this, and real news keeps flying in, of course, because I thought I was done, didn't realize, and all of a sudden Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen gets named. As we're talking about goalies here, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen to the Sabres gets named to Finland's team. Well, not a big surprise. I just wasn't really aware it was going to happen right at like 9 a.m. when we started talking here. So that's just another news note out there that. Finland's roster came out as well.
John, it's all shining Sabres these days.
Well, I tell you what, I appreciate both of you guys taking time to sit and discuss this. When you we buried the lead. Faber, Hanifin, Hughes, Jones, McAvoy, Sanderson, Slavin, Werenski. That's an unbelievable defense.
Mm-hmm.
That might be the strength of this hockey club, Zeiss, don't you think?
Well, and it's interesting because of all the glitzy names you just said there, okay? The 3 guys that stood out for me at Four Nations where you're watching them going like, whoa, these guys are doing this against some of the best players in the world. Slavin's shutdown efforts in Four Nations were unbelievable.
Yep.
Brock Faber, exactly what I talked about Matt Boldy with the Wild earlier. Brock Faber is a hell of a defenseman when you get to watch him shift by shift. Again, against some of the best players in the world. And then Jake Sanderson. I don't think we talk about this kid enough. Maybe especially south of the border because he plays in Ottawa. But, people forget that he drew into that final game against Canada in Boston back in February at the Four Nations and actually scored in that game. I love the way that he moves the puck. It's just, and the fact that, you know what, they had the marbles to not take Fox. We talked about Rangers bias. This is a guy that's won a Norris Trophy. Okay, he can put up huge numbers. And the fact that they said, yeah, but, and they looked at his body of work at the Four Nations, which was not good, and put in Jones, we can talk about what we think they did wrong. Let's talk about what they did right. And I think that trade-off just made them. I mean, guys, who sits out of that?
That was my next question.
Who sits out?
You know, I mean, I still would have taken Fox if it meant you weren't taking Miller and Trocheck. But, you know, I mean, come on.
Okay, so we're going 13-9 instead of 14-8.
Yeah, you know, that's the thing. It's the right call. Fox's play was not good at Four Nations. Fox has not been great this year during the regular season. He's not
just coming off an injury, Mike, this week.
Right. I mean, he's not going to be in the top 10 of the Norris voting this season, so they were right not to take Fox. That's the frustrating part to me, is obviously to me they got the defense right. They got the goalies right. I mean, who are you? Which other goalie are you taking other than the three they took?
Nope.
No. The only question would have been, as your third goaltender, do you invest in the future? Which is the same conversation we have in Canada on a constant basis about certain players. Do you invest in the future? Should you have taken Connor Bedard to invest in the future? Mm-hmm. Does Spencer Knight, who has had a pretty good season in Chicago, does he deserve consideration for this team as never to play, but just to be around the aura and be prepared 4 years from now in France to be one of the three goalies for the United States? Because that's really, in the end, are you building? And do you even worry about 2030? No. Is this just all about February?
I worry about 2030.
I'm going to interject here to something you said. You brought up Bedard, okay?
Yeah.
But they did invest with Celebrini.
Sure they did.
Okay? Now, people can say, oh, bring them both. But now you're taking away, whether you think that a guy, Anthony Cirelli should be there or whatever, but you bring Bedard, you're taking away from another. And look, it's a legitimate argument. But I will say this, good on them for taking Celebrini. And you know what? Good on the kid, because I remember 2 years ago when Team Canada juniors were having their development camp not too far from your humble abode, John, in Oakville, Ontario, and sitting with Alan McCauley, who was the head of Philadelphia Flyers scouting. Mm-hmm. And we're watching him, and I said, tell me about Macklin Celebrini. And he said at the time, sees the ice well, very, very, very good prospect, but not general.
Zeiss has disappeared on us.
Oh, all right. I thought I lost something. I'm still here. Though.
Zeiss has disappeared on us, so we'll keep going until he comes back. I
want to talk to your invest in the future point, John.
Yeah,
and I agree with it, and I think what Zeiss said is true about Celebrini. The one thing is, I'm not a big believer in investing in the future on an Olympic roster. To me, the selection of Celebrini was deserved. I don't really think that's investing in the future. He should be on the team. Mm-hmm. Bedard probably is more a future pick. Invest in the future in the World Cups, in the World Championships. Okay. In the Olympics, to me, it should be about your absolute best team. And to me, I just think Celebrini is part of your absolute best team for Team Canada. Is Spencer Knight one of the three best American goalies? Maybe, maybe not, but he's probably number 4. Put him on at the World, get him to go to the World Championships, pick him for the World Cup. That's kind of how I view that. I think the Olympics should be the absolute positive best players, and that's why I'm annoyed by Parayko and Binnington and Miller and Trocheck. That annoys me, because I think even the Cirelli thing, how Sam Bennett isn't on the team, that's going to stoke the Florida-Tampa rivalry. I don't like these provincial picks for Olympic teams. I really think the national governing body should really be more involved and say, we don't want to be doing this for an Olympic team. And that's what happened here.
But that goes back to if you allowed or created a governing body to manage the team,
right?
The familiarity with NHL players is vastly different than what we've seen with both groups. When you consider Billy Guerin has 5 general managers sitting around with him. Doug Armstrong has a similar group in Canada. And they know a ton more about these guys than a governing body would, don't you think?
If you're picking Trocheck and Miller for the Olympic team, I can question their knowledge and their ability to pick a team. So, no, I don't agree with that, because I just think, let's be honest here. Good Lord. Anybody could pick Cole Caulfield and Jason Robertson to be on Team USA. These guys didn't. So how are they the experts? It's just whose teams are represented on the management board, and that's my problem. And I'm sorry. I'm not questioning people's integrity, but I'm questioning a little bit of it, I suppose.
The one thing I would say is, and to finish the Celebrini conversation, and it kind of dovetails, because this was supposed to be more about the American team than the Canadian team. Mm-hmm. The concept of what Tage Thompson did at the World Championships. Everybody in Canada has talked about what Celebrini did as a person at the World Championships for Canada, even though they didn't win the gold medal. That he got indoctrinated and socialized well with veteran players, right, Zeiss? I mean, who were his locker mates at the World Championships? Who is he sitting between?
Well, first of all, sorry for clicking out there. I think the IIHF didn't like some of my answers, so they couldn't play internet.
They had to take some of the energy to finish the arena before they could finish your internet. That's the key.
Boom. Nice. No, I mean, they put him between Crosby and McKinnon in the dressing room. And those two guys had such an influence on Macklin Celebrini that 2 months later, after the Worlds, which, by the way, he had 6 points, okay? So he wasn't just a passenger. No. And he played on Crosby's line a bit. He went out to Nova Scotia to start training with Sid and with McKinnon and with Andy O'Brien. So to me, that just shows, how much he was sponging to get better. And we've seen him better. And, before I got cut off by Mystic Forces, my point was that we forget sometimes that these kids are like teenagers. There's still a growing curve, okay? Where Macklin Celebrini has come in 2 years is amazing, but it's also part of a development, okay? We're at the stage now, and you could say, for some of the young American players too, if a guy's 21 and he hasn't burst onto the scene yet, sometimes people go, oh, this guy's kind of a bust. He's 21 years old, okay? And I think the fact that Celebrini went over there, he sponged, like I said, from those two guys. Good on them for putting him on the team. And in the same way, I mean, you know what? Robertson and Caulfield, by no means are as young as Celebrini, but they're still young players. And 4 years down the road, those two guys are going to be in their prime. As good as they are now, you can still see that there's an ascension there. So that's why I don't understand why they don't have him on the team. And it goes back to the final at Four Nations where I didn't understand. They made Kyle Connor a healthy scratch in the final game. Kyle Connor, I mean, the one thing that kid can do is score goals. And he was made a healthy scratch while guys like Trocheck and Brock Nelson were playing. So
Chris Kreider was the one that Chris Kreider should have been in the press box, and Kyle Connor should have played. Harrington, we're going to take a quick break, but before we do that, the one thing that just jumps out at me is that the team that won Four Nations made more changes than the team that didn't win Four Nations. And that, to me, I don't know what that means, but Canada made more changes on its roster than the Americans did to theirs.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they looked forward. Celebrini's a huge addition there. I just had the sense that was going to be the case, John. I had the sense, the U.S. was going to mostly mirror Four Nations. We knew probably Thompson was going to make it because of the Worlds. Good on them for picking Keller and Jones. But there just seems to be, even though we've already discussed some of the issues I have with Canada, there just seems to have been more forward thinking with Canada's roster than with the U.S. roster. The U.S. roster seemed awfully plugged in already, and Canada seemed to take a more global approach to it.
Yeah, it's fascinating to look at both of those rosters. We're going to talk briefly about what's going on in the National Hockey League and the topsy-turvy. The team that was first last year is 32nd now. And don't look at it. The Buffalo Sabres are at a playoff spot. Zeisberger, Harrington on 100% Hockey. More after this. Welcome back, 100% Hockey, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and your favorite podcast platform. Harrington and Zeisberger with me. All right, boys, let's get back to the day-to-day of the National Hockey League. It's Friday, January the 2nd. The Buffalo Sabres have won 10 in a row, including an impressive victory in Dallas, Harrington. What the heck's in Lake Erie water today?
And by the way, guys, if you would have looked in the sky last night, you could have seen Haley's Comet blow by.
Yeah, who could have ever thought this? The funny part is Jarmo Kekalainen can't make any moves as GM. He's 7-0. He can't touch a winning lineup. I'm sure
I figured Kevin Adams would be phoning and saying, hey, that's my team.
That's my team, right. It's the greatest, we talk about the coach bump. This has got to be the greatest GM bump in NHL history here. But, through all the jokes of it, guys, they're playing really well. They're playing winning defensive hockey. They haven't given up a third-period goal in the last 5 games. They're protecting leads. They're forechecking like you cannot believe. And 7 years ago when they had a 10-game winning streak, we knew it was a fraud. They had 7 wins in overtime and shootouts, and we knew it was fool's gold. This is real. This is probably the team they thought they had. And you could make the case if Josh Norris doesn't get hurt on opening night and doesn't miss 24 games, maybe Kevin Adams never gets fired. Who knows? This is what they thought they were. They did not think they were the team that was in 31st place when they were in 31st place. When they were 5-8-4 and losing 4-1 late in the second period, November 15th in Detroit, they were in serious trouble. This is the team they thought they would be. They could score, they can skate. The penalty killing's been excellent. And the reality to it compared to last year is the goaltending's been very good. And last year it was not, and they were 29th in the league in goals against. And Alex Lyon, who's now hurt, has really straightened out and helped the goaltending. Luukkonen has been better. He's been really good at home. His goals against at home is under 2. He's been better the last couple on the road. And here we are going to Columbus on Saturday for what would be a franchise record 11th win. And here's the stat of the day, guys, if they win in Columbus. No team that has ever had an 11-game winning streak in any season in NHL history has ever missed the playoffs. So there's your stat for the Buffalo Sabres if they win in Columbus on Saturday.
Well, first of all, Harrington's already had to cancel his mid-April trip down to the Bahamas.
No, it's my mid-April trips to Toronto normally.
Yeah.
Which I might not be making this year the way the Leafs are going.
We might juxtapose that. I might be seing you at
You
that
might be coming to my spot, right?
First of all, and I wish nothing but good luck to the kid. But Josh Norris being hurt is hardly breaking news because that was one of the reasons why Ottawa traded him, is that he couldn't stay healthy. But beyond that, just a quick note on Kevin Adams. I covered him as a player. One of the best guys you'd ever want to meet. And I wished him well in his time in Buffalo. Having said that, and Mike knows this, what a soft spot I have for the market of Buffalo, but the great sports fans down there, and especially hockey. You look at the TV ratings for a Stanley Cup final, and Buffalo's always near the top of the list for teams that aren't participating in the final in the U.S., the minor hockey tournaments that they have down there. The moment that Kevin Adams came up with the excuse that, well, there's no palm trees in Buffalo, suggesting that that's why players don't go there. No, Kevin, you just didn't bring in the right player. But you cannot send that message to those people, because you know what? Winnipeg finished first overall. We talked about that last year. Players re-sign there.
I'm not
Players
sure that's a
go
good
to
thing
Edmonton.
today.
Okay. And maybe that's because of McDavid. But, we talked about Alex Tuch. Alex Tuch he wants and wanted to be a Buffalo Sabre. You can't start talking about we don't have palm trees here
Right.
and send that message to the public. I was shocked that he wasn't let go, and I never want to see people lose their jobs, especially, like I said, I like Kevin, but the moment he said that and the message that sent to the fan base, that would have been it for me.
Harrington, is Yarmo's first splash re-signing Tuch?
Boy, that'd be a great first splash, wouldn't it? I know they're talking. The talks had gone south. They kind of put him on the back burner, they said, because Tuch was concerned about winning hockey games. Well, I know that Yarmo and the Bartletts have talked, and now they're winning hockey games. You would think that would certainly enlighten Alex Tuch into wanting to stick around, like I know he does. But they have to pay him. And you know what? The cap is going up, and, to me, at this point, he remains the most important thing they have to do, because that's a locker room issue. Tage Thompson talked about it on day one in camp in September, what it would do for the morale of the room to re-sign Alex Tuch. And if you don't re-sign Alex Tuch now, with the team winning, what are you going to do, trade Alex Tuch in March before the deadline when the team's at a playoff spot? You got to be kidding me. So they have to figure this out. They have to open the purse strings. I know Alex Tuch wants Kempe money. It is Alex Tuch, a $10.6 million player going to age 38. Well, he's pretty close to a $10.6 million player now. You're just going to have to suck it up and eat the contract when he's older and he's not a $10.6 million player. It's the way it is. They have no choice. Yarmo has to sign Alex Tuch.
So we were witness last night to, as we talk about the Sabres winning 10 in a row, the Jets have now lost 8 in a row, and they did it in fine fashion last night at Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, Mike, with a 4-1 lead halfway through the second period, and they just evaporated. What do you see happening there, Zeiss?
Well, first of all, I'm a little flabbergasted by it, because if you look at the Jets roster, and by no means am I comparing that to Colorado's roster. Even when the Jets won the President's Trophy last year, I looked at their roster and said, you know what? I mean, do I think this roster is as good as, say, Colorado's or Florida's? No. But it's a good roster. I know they lost Nick Ehlers, but still, Appleton was a good player, but
they got older and slower. They did.
Well,
they got older and slower.
Yeah, but older and slower to the point, John, that 6 months later they're worse to first. I mean, they played loosey-goosey hockey. Mm-hmm. I think I mentioned to you last night, our old buddy Pat Quinn, may he rest in peace, he would have watched that game and said it was Hudson Bay rules out there.
I don't think we could use that anymore. I think we have to call it Canadian Tire rules.
Oh, okay.
You know what I say about the Jets is yeah, they got a little slower. They lost Ehlers, who hasn't been great in Carolina, just for the record.
No.
But when Hellebuck went down, you're the Winnipeg Jets. How do you not get a goalie? I mean, you decide you're going to go for it. My friend Eric Comrie, who's a great guy, we all loved him when he was in Buffalo. But good Lord, the winning goal last night by Matthews was an Eric Comrie special. That can't happen. They decided that was what they were going to go forward, knowing that Hellebuck was going to be out. So the team has collapsed around the lack of goaltending and other factors, obviously. But that's the number one reason they've gone worst to first is Hellebuck's not there. And I mean, I just can't believe it. They've kind of did what the Sabres did last year when they lost 13 in a row. Cheveldayoff has sat and watched. When is he going to do something with this club, or is he just going to be shown the door?
And here's one of
that doesn't happen. But that doesn't happen in Winnipeg, Mike. It doesn't.
I guess not.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. The amount of loyalty that ownership shows management, the ownership shows players, is beyond reproach in many ways.
But John, here's one thing that I sensed last night. You obviously have done stuff on the Winnipeg Jets broadcast, so you know kind of the feel in Winnipeg, and it's something that was reflected in Toronto earlier this season. People don't have patience anymore, okay? And a few weeks ago, there were calls and stories, well, is this the end of Craig Berube in Toronto? Craig Berube led them to a first-place finish in the division last year. And through 28 games, some people wanted him fired after that. And now, the pushback on Scott Arniel. Did Scott Arniel just suddenly not know how to coach anymore after leading them to a President's Trophy? When do players become accountable? Okay? Because when the Leafs were in their funk, I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see the way that, and he'll tell you the way Craig Berube wants them to play north-south. That's how we had success. That's how, even though they laid an egg against Florida in Game 7, that's the closest they've gotten to a conference final since, I think, 2002 when they played Carolina. All of a sudden, he can't coach? No, they weren't playing the way that he wanted them to play. And I can damn well tell you that loosey-goosey style that the Jets played last night is not what Scott Arniel is preaching. So I know it's easy to dump a coach, but like in less than half a season, when you've got in Toronto a guy that won the division last year, and in Winnipeg a guy that won the President's Trophy last season, and you want to turf him out on the street after half a season or less, maybe you should look at the way that the players are or not following the method of success that the coach has proven to have with those players.
No, I agree, but sometimes what else can you do? I mean, you can't trade Austin Matthews, even though it might not be a terrible idea. The cap doesn't allow it for the most part. So the only quiver you have
better, Mike. That's always my. If you're going to make a quick decision to pull the trigger like that, you better have somebody in the wings who's better.
Right. And that's the problem. I mean, but that's probably the only thing people see is, well, we've got to change the coach. Buffalo was a little different in that no one was really pegging the issues on Lindy. They were pegging it on roster construction, inactivity, culture, just the feeling that everyone had lost faith in Kevin Adams. So that's a rarity. You see that where the team goes for the GM, but you knew that was going to happen. But it's hard. It's hard when you are in a situation like the Leafs or the Jets right now because you need to make a trade. It's hard to trade. These GMs aren't bold. They don't trade until March, it seems. So your only option sometime is to turf the coach. I mean, I at some point here, I cannot imagine the Winnipeg Jets are going to sit by, even irrespective of what John said, without either firing Cheveldayoff or firing Scott Arniel. One of them is going to go. It's just impossible to think they would stay.
See, and I've been an advocate like Zeisberger has been. I think Scott Arniel has done his damnedest to make something happen with this roster. And now he needs somebody in management to help him make the change. They need to do something. They're at the point now in Winnipeg, they might have to change one of the core players. And in Winnipeg, that's unheard of. To change the core in Winnipeg is unheard of. But they're going to have to look at getting rid of one of their key players. And I'm not suggesting Scheifele, Velarde, or Connor, but they might have to trade a guy like Neil Pionk, who's a good defenseman. They have a young guy in the American League in Salamanson who could fill the role, and they might get something back to help them score goals because that's their biggest. Even though they got 5 last night, they can't score goals. And through the first 7 games of this losing streak, they had 12 goals or 13 goals in 7 games. That's their problem, and I think it's completely on the players there. And they, quite frankly, they've been too nice to the players in Winnipeg. They've been too nice.
Both cities. I mean, even in Toronto, you look at it. These two teams together, you're talking about Toronto, Winnipeg, combined have been in what? One conference final in the last 10 years. So why are all these players untouchable? This is the core. We can't. What have they won in either place?
Yeah,
nothing.
Toronto, I think there's a sense of entitlement because the players are treated so well. But to Mike's point, and we're talking about like making moves, and Mike is right in terms of, everybody seems to be gun shy in this league about making a big move, which is why I have all the respect in the world for Billy Guerin when he had a chance to go get Quinn Hughes, and there's no guarantee that he'll stay. But he said, what do you want? Okay? And they gave up a lot. I mean, Vancouver got a good return for him. But if I'm the New Jersey Devils, I sit there and go, who on your roster do you want that's not named, that isn't the other two Hughes? Could you imagine if the New Jersey Devils would have got Quinn Hughes? How you can, and look that's not the easiest team to market, okay? You parade those three brothers out, they are the face of your franchise, okay? That's so, not only do you have three brothers, you got three guys that are elite players, okay? So good on Billy Guerin for pulling. And the other one, and we talked about this earlier, but Billy Zito, we make so much fuss at trade deadline, who might go, who might not. And all of a sudden, a third line center, who you might not, is above average, all of a sudden becomes great because he's on the top of somebody's trade board on television or, in our business in the written word. He goes out and gets Brad Marchand and Seth Jones.
Yeah.
Okay. Who you could argue were the two best players that were available. So, you know what? Good on those guys. And if you're an opposing general manager, what are you scared of when you see the success that these two guys have had? I mean, we'll see how the Wild do, but I think all of a sudden they've taken the next step. We'll see what happens in the playoffs. But how good were Jones and Marchand in the playoffs? I mean, John, I'm not sure Florida wins the Stanley Cup final without Marchand.
They don't.
No,
they don't.
Not a chance.
They don't. Now, you talked about Minnesota, and there's a good chance they may not get out of the first round.
Stupid format. Billy Guerin. Billy Guerin, it's amazing. I think Billy Guerin's a fascinating cat because you could make the case Billy Guerin right now is the GM of the year in the NHL.
Yeah.
And you can make the case he's the dope of the year on the Olympic selections. I mean, so he's a fascinating guy. But yeah, I mean, Minnesota is the one team that's going to get completely hosed by the format. They can't possibly win 2 rounds back to back, I don't think, over Dallas and Colorado. They should be playing some, number 4, 5, 6 ham bone from the Pacific Division in the first round, and they're not. The whole world knows it's January 2nd. The whole world knows Dallas and Minnesota are playing in the first round. How dumb is that?
Well, you know what, Mike? Devil's advocate here, okay? I understand what they were trying to do, okay? I mean, say in Toronto, okay, they played Ottawa a couple times, okay? But when they're putting this thing together from a Toronto perspective, you're going like, oh, it could be Leafs Habs. Could you imagine that? Well, the only time they've ever played was in 79, or since 79 in the playoffs, was during the COVID year where there weren't any fans. If a tree falls in the forest. Mike, we both remember in the late 90s, the Buffalo-Toronto playoff series. How cool was that? Could you imagine a Buffalo-Detroit series or a Toronto-Detroit series? So I agree with you that maybe the format could be different, but at the same time, some of these teams are to blame for being so bad and the other teams being so good. Because the two Florida teams have been good for so long and the Boston Bruins, we've gotten the same playoff series over and over and over again, wash, rinse, repeat. Although I will say this, if Florida and Tampa play in the first round, and I mean...
Nobody's complaining.
It's been a brouhaha every time they complain, or every time they play. But we all know our buddy Paul Maurice, okay? Whether it's legit or not, you can see before game 1 him walking in that Panthers dressing room and going, you know what? You know that coach on the other side? He thinks Anthony Cirelli is better than Sam Bennett. And you know what, John? You know Mo as well as I do. Mike, you know Mo as well as I do. I'd be shocked if he didn't play the you-know-what out of that angle.
Oh, my God.
Hey, listen, let's save the whole playoff discussion for another day. Because you boys have got to get back to work. We've got to read you in the Buffalo Evening News. We've got to read you on NHL.com as you talk about Billy Guerin and his team and Doug Armstrong and his team. Boys, thanks for this.
Hey, John, the Buffalo Sabres might actually make the playoffs.
Oh, there are some good stories, and then there are some great stories. That, my friend, would be a great story. Thanks to the two mics. I'll be back after this on 100% Hockey.
With the NHL app, you can listen to every NHL game right from your phone. And with home and away broadcast feeds, you choose your way to listen.
And he scores!
Whether you're at work, at the gym, or stuck in traffic, the NHL app puts you right in the action all season long. Every team, every game, everywhere you go. Download the NHL app and never miss a moment.
It's been 14 years since the Buffalo Sabres have got to the Stanley Cup playoffs, and living in Southern Ontario, you do get a bit of a flavor of what the Sabres are going through on a regular basis. If you listen to local radio, which they do a spectacular job in Buffalo, but this is a great fan base the Sabres have, and it appears that people are buying into what the Sabres have. That 10th victory in Dallas was an impressive victory for Lindy Ruff and his team, and it will be fascinating to see what happens the rest of the way, and if they're able to keep up. They're gonna win every night, but if they're able to keep up the victories and get one of the top 8 spots in the Eastern Conference. On the other side of the ledger, when you consider from first to worst, the Winnipeg Jets, it's quite staggering. What's happened. And on a personal note, I got to say, I do some work in Winnipeg on CGOB with Kelly Moore and his crew. And listening to Mark Scheifele after the game last night, you could feel the exasperation in his voice of the hockey club losing 8 straight games. They do have 3 loser points, but they have not won since the 13th of January against the Washington Capitals. But I was so impressed with the way Scheifele deflected a lot of the pressure away from guys who did not have good games last night, like Eric Comrie. He literally talked about what his team did rather than what Scheifele or what Comrie did, and I thought that was tremendous. And then he talked, quite frankly, about how disappointed he was not to be picked to Canada's team, but he would be prepared to go if they asked him, barring an injury, and that he would stay in the protocol. Mark Scheifele has always been a little bit of a different guy in my mind, and but my respect for him on what he said, how he managed the situation last night, both from a personal point of view in the Olympics and from a team point of view, was very, very impressive. We will see what happens to both the Sabres and the Jets as the season continues. The Jets are in Ottawa on Saturday. The Sabres are in Columbus on Saturday. For Darren Millard, who will, trust me, Darren Millard will return to this show at some point. Only reason he wasn't on today again was the afternoon game in Vegas. We will talk to you next week. And again, hope the first weekend of 2026 is a good one for you. Stay warm, everybody. This is John Shannon for 100% Hockey.